Hi. So, my name's Andrew Clemons. I'm going to cover some stuff in the book of Hebrews tonight. So, the book of Hebrews, nobody knows who wrote it. Somebody wrote it, possibly the Apostle Paul, some think. Many think Barnabas wrote it. Tertullian, an early church historian, thinks that Barnabas wrote it. Barnabas was supposed to be from Cyprus, which was a center of Greek learning, and Hebrews is written in a very sophisticated Greek, polished Greek, if you will, and so that's another reason why it might be attributed to Barnabas. But most modern scholars think that Paul didn't write it. They think there's too many differences in the theological perspectives. For one thing, the author of Hebrews seems to think that you could lose your salvation, which Paul thinks that faith alone justifies you once for always. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and just get into this book. This book that is absolutely full of lies and atrocities, even violence against God's law. But we're going to read it aloud today and work through it with each other. So here we go. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1. God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds, who being the brightness of his glory and express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had by himself purged our sins, sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high. Okay, so I'm going to focus in on verse 2 here. He says, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. So the author of Hebrews here is stating that God made the world through Jesus, and that Jesus was present during the making of the world. But from Isaiah 44:24, we know that God made the earth and the heaven and earth by himself, and nobody was with him, is what he says. And also in Deuteronomy chapter 32, he says that there's no God that's with him, and he's the only one. The Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4, our God is one. And so he's matching Paul's view on Christology in that he thinks that God created Jesus pre-existed, and Jesus created the earth and created man and so forth and so on, that we were created by Jesus. And it gives Jesus a pre-existence. See, this establishes that Jesus pre-existed, which in fact Jesus didn't pre-exist. He was a man like you and I, born of the flesh, had a father and mother. Father was Joseph, and his mother was Mary. That's why we see the Davidic lines being established in both Matthew and Luke, attached to Joseph, his father. And so what this essentially does to people is it makes them think that they can't be righteous. It hinders their ability, it deters them from thinking that they can be righteous, because, if Jesus pre-existed and he was before time and he had all wisdom of God and essentially was God, then he would be capable of being righteous, and it makes the average person think that they can't be on account of that. So, all right, so moving on. Verse 3 is, he says, who being the brightness of his glory and express image of his person. So he's saying that Jesus is the express image of God, exactly what God would look like in the flesh, and is God. So this isn't true. Nobody's seen God's face and lived. So God's not a man that he should be able to die and be crucified. And so Jesus is not the express image of God. but it says that he is. And upholding all things by the word of his power, when he had himself purged our sins, sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high. Okay, so we'll move on past that. Being made so much better than the angels, as he hath by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. So he's saying that Jesus was made higher than the angels, because in special effect, he more or less was a demigod on account of his pre-existence and preeminence of man. And what essentially God, he's being raised here above what a normal man is. And Jesus was a man of the line of King David. And he now does sit at the right hand of God. But he was a man just like you and I before he ascended. And so don't let him pull your chain on that one.